Hey, it's Chris here. In this video, I'm going to be wearing my nurse hat and reflecting on what I had said in the previous video about dementia and the debate and what we could expect to see from both Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And it was kind of an interesting debate. I think people are talking most about how poorly Joe Biden did in the debate, but I do think that there are some warning signs with both of the candidates. Donald Trump was just more effective in managing his responses and avoiding some of the traps that Joe Biden set for himself. And actually, I think the way he prepared for the debate, given some of the limitations that he has that are age-related and normal, and there's wisdom and experience, but there are also limitations as we get older of some things that we can and can't do. And as I said in another video 4 months ago, that really debating wasn't probably going to be Joe Biden's thing, and that he's probably going to do poorly in them just because of some of the challenges that he's facing with cognitive ability. So I want to cover all of that quickly and just refer back to that video, the dementia and the presidential debate, if you want to watch that and see some of what I said there. And I'm not going to rehearse all of that, but just share some of the observations as I watched the debate. The first thing is I hope we have that idea of performance-enhancing drugs put to bed. Although I do notice some left-wing people are saying Donald Trump was on some kind of performance-enhancing drug. The very thing that they were really upset that they were saying about President Biden in the State of the Union. Now people are looking to see his pupil dilation and everything. And there may be medication that he's taking, but I don't think at the end of the day, any kind of medication made all the difference in the debate and gave one person an advantage over another. I do think as I watched the debate, one of the things that Donald Trump did really well is he prepared himself to be on the stage in that debate. And some things that I noticed with him is you notice that initially he would not answer questions that are asked of him. He would just go into his rote stump speech. It's things that he say over and over again that he knows like the back of his hand. He would just launch into those things, launch into those tirades. And then after he's doing that for a while, and we've got that question already out there, and kind of in his subconscious, if you will, he would come back to answer it when he gets pressed, but give only kind of very generalized answers. He never went into any real significant detail about the questions that he was asked, and when he did speak to those things, he just went on pre-canned, pre-packaged stuff, and that limited some of his struggles, cognitive struggles, because he's got things that are just deeply ingrained in his mind, and he knows how to say them. He's saying them over and over and over again. So he's not really taking in new information, processing it, and synthesizing with what he already knows. He is simply hearing something and pulling back his stump speech or things that he said 1,000,000 times and just throwing that out there as a response. Even then, there were a couple times, I heard him struggling with word construction. That happened a number of times, but also a lot of word salads. If you went back and just took a transcript of what he was saying, you'd say, oh, this is pretty jumbled. The thing is he was not as bad as Joe Biden, so it was easier for people to decode what he was saying. And that's what we almost subconsciously do when people struggle to communicate in our own impatience or whatever. We're just trying to process and understand what's being said. So we do a lot of decoding in our brain, and then we just understand that we really need to put it all together and fill in the blanks and put things back in the right word order. So sometimes we're not even aware of how jumbled the word salad is, because we've kind of done this reconstruction in our brain as we're decoding what's being said. So that said, I think there were a lot of struggles, simplistic vocabulary. He very rarely, I didn't really hear anything that he was saying at the debate that wasn't something he says over and over and over and over again in his stump speeches. The only real difference I noticed was he tried to tone down a little bit and how he spoke, and I thought it was conscientious on his part. Is somehow he made himself not sound as extremist as he does in his stump speeches and his True Social posts, and so he was doing his best to kind of tone some of those kinds of things out and kind of hide some of the pathology that he has. And that's not unusual for somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. People like that are going to try to hide their true selves from the public. Now, among his adoring fans, he can reveal more of who his true self is, because they all eat it up. They're all with him. Many of them are worshiping him as a God-appointed savior figure and are saying that and putting in songs and all sorts of things. So he can reveal some more of that stuff, but he knows in a more general audience, a narcissist knows that they've got to conceal a lot of who they really are. But even so, as he tried to do that, still a lot seeped out in the speech. And that's kind of my thoughts on former President Trump is he did kind of reveal himself. His thoughts weren't all really cogently put together. And I've gone back a little bit and listened to former President Trump in the 90s and the 80s, and he was a much more eloquent person back then and didn't have the struggles back then as he does now. So I don't think this is something that's always been part of his struggle with communication. This is kind of an age-related thing, and I do still continue to think that he's probably in the early stages of dementia as well. And sometimes you have good days and bad days, and it was a good night for him last night, and he managed himself pretty well. And so that kind of stood out in contrast to former President Biden. Now, some people are talking about the fact that he had a cold and he wasn't feeling well, and I get that. President Biden had a cold, he wasn't feeling well. You could hear him struggling to keep his throat clear. His voice was shaky and weak at times. He wasn't projecting very well. But that's also a lot of age-related stuff. As you get to that season of life, as you're getting towards your sunset, you do struggle with those things. Your voice gets softer and it's harder to speak. And the thing is, what we need of a president who is president over the lives, responsible for the lives of about 350 million people in the United States, is we need somebody who, with the energy and vigor, that can go have a cold and not set them back so they can't perform in a debate, or not have a urinary tract infection and suffer confusion, or get pneumonia easily that would lay them up in the hospital, that they can be quickly responsive to medical treatment, that viruses and bacterial infections that set most healthy people down just a little bit, and still they can think and talk and act. We need that of a president, I would think. So I respect and I understand a lot of people on the left, weighing a lot of Democrats wanting to try to explain his poor performance. But I think there's more going on there. And part of it is just the age-related cognitive decline. And as I listened and watched, I do think that there is some stuff that is I saw things to be concerned about. For example, when he was asked a question, the good thing is unlike Trump, who wasn't going to bother to answer questions, President Biden tried to answer the question. But the thing is he went into the debate, it was obvious that he had prepared. He had prepared answers, he had anticipated questions, and he prepared answers and probably spent the week going over them, going through possibly mock debates. So he had put into his mind a number of things that he needed to say. Now, what he's doing is he's trying to create this file in his aging brain that I've got a debate coming up. This is my debate file. Then he has the file of everything from his years and years and years of experience of what he wants to say and what he believes. But when you have this question being asked and you're trying to recall on a time clock things that you're supposed to say, you get your recall and you're starting to speak and your mind is not pulling up fast enough what you want to say, and you're trying to race and get all the words that you having to say because you've learned so much, and now you've got 2 minutes to say 5 minutes of stuff. So now you're talking fast, you're mumbling, you're misstating things, you're stuttering because you have all this pressure, this time pressure when your recall is slow to get all the information out as quickly as possible. And that's what I saw a lot of what was happening with him, is his recall just could not keep up with the time demands that the debate presented on him. And that's what I had said in the earlier video 4.5 months ago, why I thought that he probably wouldn't do well in a debate because of these time demands and these expectations to take in new information, process it quickly, and get it out. And that's what he really struggled with. And so you got a lot of word salads. You got a lot of words that weren't completely formed. You got a lot of him being so unsure of himself and his facts, and mixing up values like millions instead of billions and trillions instead of billions and things like that, because he was expecting of himself to be able to perform in a debate like he did 4 years ago or 8 years ago or 10 years ago. And that's just not a realistic expectation for him to do that. And I do think that also brings to the forefront the question about how severe the cognitive decline is. How much really is he processing? We hear people talk about his voice being weak and sometimes not expressing himself well. I know right-wing media, it's just doing a horrible thing. And I just don't like what they're doing. I guess they're calling it cheap fakes, where what Biden is doing and where he's putting his attention makes sense, but they cut the parachutist out of the screen. So yes, he may be moving slowly. It may be aimless looking because of how his brain is responding and leading him to move his muscles and turn his attention and everything. But it does make sense. You see there's a parachutist, or you can see that he's wandering somewhere on stage to try to talk to somebody, or he's looking at something, and it's something that makes sense if you get the whole screen picture. But the way they do it is they try to create a narrative propaganda about him, and I think there are enough questions about his health that we don't need to manufacture stuff. I think we need to just be open and honest, and I think we need to do that as a society. Right now we have 2 elderly men running for president, and both show signs of being in the early stages of dementia. Even though you didn't see as many slip-ups, as much signs of it from former President Trump at the debate last night, still there have been many other speeches, many other things, many other indicators that make that evident. So we've got these 2 men who are struggling with issues related to age, who are struggling with cognitive abilities, and they're running for president. And one of the takeaways that I took away from this clinically is, I think part of our problem as a society is we don't talk enough about what happens as people age. We don't know, most people don't know what's normal and what's not normal for age. What is normal age-related decline in physical abilities and mental abilities? And when is that age decline just means slower response time, but wisdom and experience take over, and their leadership doesn't put our country in jeopardy, or that they're going to make bad decisions. It's just going to be slower. They need more information. They need more guidance. And when is it going to put our country at risk? Now, I think, and this, the added burden that former President Trump has is just having all the pathology of narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder. People call it malignant narcissism. So as somebody like that develops dementia, there's a whole nother play out of that, how that works out in practical terms. And some of you may have had a loved one who is a malignant narcissist and developed dementia, and you kind of probably know how that's going to play out and how ugly it's going to get. But right now it's not as apparent. But there's an added burden that former President Trump bears. But President Biden really showed his age last night, really showed his limitations. It showed himself as feeble and frail and very difficult in that environment with that pressure to communicate in a way that's understandable. And that really is concerning. Basically, we have two candidates for president that have a lot of cognitive and physical limitations, and those things are real. And I think as a society, we need to start having these conversations about what it's like to grow old and where the line is between wisdom and experience and unsafe to lead. Right now, people don't have any idea where that line is. And because of that, there's a lot of speculation out there. I wish there are more people with more experience. There are medical doctors, researchers, and others. There are a lot of people that could be speaking out on this more and educating society more. And I really wish they would, because I do think it would be helpful for all of us to learn and grow in that area so that we can make wiser choices. But also, I think the respective parties are going to really have some choices to make at their conventions and decide, is this the best for the United States of America, for the citizens of this country to move forward with the respective candidates. I really believe that people need to be having that discussion. However, I'm skeptical that those discussions really will be held. But at the end of the day, as a Christian myself, personally, I believe that God is sovereign and He's in control of all things, and that I don't have to live in fear and anxiety and worry because God is there with me and for me. Yet at the same time, I understand that for many, just seeing the debate probably was very, very concerning, especially for those of you who are strong supporters of President Biden and trying to process and think about that, because you know you're going to support him no matter what. But the other issue is, so what? What if these limitations accelerate and the decline accelerates, which is very possible it could do, to the point where he got to a point where by the time of the election, he is incapacitated. And those are kind of discussions that you have when somebody is of advanced age like he is, that you wouldn't have with somebody that's maybe 20 or 30 years younger. And that's just a reality where we are. So I do think it's going to be some interesting discussions in the weeks ahead, and the months and leading up to the Democratic convention, to see what people are going to decide to do with some of what is now becoming more apparent limitations of President Biden. Anyway, I wish you well, and I'll try to post some more videos talking about this subject, the healthcare issues related to these presidential candidates. Thank you for watching. God bless.